Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another rendition of All We Do Is Talk. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I'm here with Moody and Isaiah. How we doing today?
What's good, Eric? How you doing?
Another beautiful week of football, Eric. I feel good after this weekend, Eric. How do you feel? You feel good?
I feel good, man. How you feeling, Isaiah?
No comment.
All right, well, let's get started on this week 3 recap. We'll start with Thursday night, where the Panthers beat the Texans 24-9. We won, but we also lost.
At what cost?
Yeah, everything. Christian McCaffrey pulls his hamstring or tweaks it. And
sucks for the fantasy team.
Well, positive news, they didn't put him on IR, so he'll probably miss a game, maybe 2. Is what it looks like they'll probably end up being for him. So not the worst case scenario news.
It's a soft tissue injury. That's the worst case scenario.
It's not the worst case scenario news.
I think it'll linger for the rest of the season.
I think if they were really worried about it, they would have put him on IR automatically.
My team is suffering from lots of soft tissue injuries. Those are worse than the breaks and the tears because they linger.
I think the Panthers' other injury, Mr. J.C. Horn, would disagree with you about how bad his injury feels.
They all hurt.
Pain. Absolute pain.
Also lost J.C. Horn to a broken foot. It looked like an Achilles.
But he
got lucky. So
good news.
So that's good because he just was backpedaling and just gave away. I was like, ooh.
But as far as the football game goes, not very exciting football here. Davis Mills did show some things. I will say that Davis Mills did show.
He had the best game of any rookie quarterback this week.
I mean, that's not a very high bar, but yeah, you can say that. But overall, Davis Mills against a really, really good, really fast Carolina Panthers defense, he showed that he could stand in there and make some tough throws. He can make some plays in some difficult situations, but he just doesn't really have a whole outside of Brandon Cooks. That roster doesn't have any talent.
And they ran the ball, but they got behind so quickly.
Mad best.
Pretty bad football game.
But Sam Darnold continues to look really, really good in the Joe Brady offense. He ran for a couple scores.
DJ Moore looked amazing.
DJ Moore also, I mean, the progression continues. We know the arrow's always going to be pointing up for DJ Moore. He's one of the brightest young stars in the league. But so their offense continued to look good. I think Robbie Anderson got behind them and had a big play in the game. It's just with the Christian McCaffrey injury, it puts a damper on what was another solid performance from Carolina.
Only because now they're going to be down their best offensive player again. But he's a running back, so if there's a player you want to replace, we'll see how Chuba Hubbard stands.
This is a different type of running back, though.
Yeah, that's the problem. But we'll see. They have lots of weapons, like I said. So I think if they could get those touches filtered out to Terrace Marshall Jr. and Robbie Anderson, who needs to get going with Sam Darnold. We know they got the connection. That'll be fine. They got a good offense. I believe in their offensive system. So I'm sure that it's not the most crippling injury, like if they lost a tackle. Offensive line's been up and down, but they had a good game last week. Kind of. They actually had a pretty bad game. Actually, now that I think back to it. Anything else to say about Carolina?
I guess we could just tally up our markings from the weekly predictions.
No, you just want to point out how good you did this week.
I mean, the people deserve to know so they can know who to listen to make money off of in the future.
We're gonna give them a monthly recap. It hasn't been a month yet. You're out here.
I just want to show. Hey, I didn't get them all right.
If we
don't want to talk about picks, then we can avoid talking about picks.
That's fine.
So I don't want to hear anything about some other games.
We'll give a monthly update. But Moody had a amazing week, so he wants to rub it in that he picked 10 games correctly.
10.
Some other things I want to bring up about the Panthers is Trumbull came out a little bit in this game. I think this game is the reason why they were able to trade Dan Arnold to Jacksonville to get some cornerback help for J.C. Horn being out.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've always been a Peter Trumbull fan because ND, baby. So moving on, we'll go to the 1:00 games. I guess we'll knock Isaiah's pain out right away. So
we don't have to. You don't have to sit here and think about it.
In every game recap, the Giants and Atlanta go last, and in other news, the Giants lose another sad, terrible game to the Atlanta Falcons. That's how we should just go about it.
Now I was helping with the move, so I personally didn't see a lot of this 1 o'clock football game.
You didn't miss nothing, and you know you didn't miss nothing.
It was 17-14. It was the battle for the worst team in the NFC, and the Falcons found a way to not be the worst team. Congratulations to them.
Matt Ryan was terrible all game, which is the biggest pain. Falcons struggled to move the ball, except for the 2 touchdown drives they threw on the board and the 1 field goal drive. The only time the Falcons moved the ball were the 3 drives they scored on. But because the Giants' offense was so anemic in the red zone, thanks to a botched snap, a holding penalty, false start penalty that killed instant first and goal opportunities. Settled for 2 field goals. So, of course, they settled for 2 field goals, dominate the first half, and still are down 7-6. And that's everybody got booed at halftime, including Eli Manning. So,
yeah, it was just
disastrous game. I still believe the team will fight and overcome and be happy that they're in the NFC East and come back. And now I will say that they had the easiest part of the schedule because they had the 4th easiest schedule to start, and they have the hardest schedule to finish. But I believe the team will play spoiler this year like they usually do on the back end. But I think they'll pick it up and they'll make it look respectable. But they're going to be mad that they blew games like this and last week because they should be 2-1. I don't care what anybody says.
For the Falcons, I guess just a gritty, tough win on the road against a team that's not a bad team being another bad team. I don't really
Also, by the way, play the game. Daniel Jones, Chuck Sticks, Grady Jarrett for a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, pretty unacceptable from Grady Jarrett to give that up. But overall, just a pretty ugly football game. A pretty ugly football game between two teams that I really don't expect to be competing for anything this year. So
it's only September. You don't win anything in September.
And these y'all aren't winning anything at all. So
don't say that. Freezing cold takes. Be ready to get them.
Eric, if you have anything to add, we can go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a need to win for the Giants with Daniel Jones not having any fumbles or any interceptions. I think.
What if I told you exactly? What if I told you the Giants were getting better quarterback play than expected and better offensive line play than expected? Would you think they'd be still the terrible sack that they still are? Because now everything else is the problem. So coaching is the problem. They have the talent. Coaching's a little young and youthful, and one of them includes Jason Garrett, who's not doing a bad job, he's just not elevating anybody right now, Jason. So you're probably going to lose your job anyway, no matter how the season ends. But we'll be okay. Steer the ship. We still got a bunch of NFC East. We still got a bunch of NFC East games on the schedule. Just wait on it.
Yeah, and I also think Saquon is not healthy, but.
Well, I mean, that's
you usually gotta wait and see.
He looks better. This was the best game he had, though. So he looks like he's getting better, but he runs around with a limp. And let's move on. Next game, please.
All right, let's move on to the Cleveland Browns beating the Chicago Bears 26-6. The Cleveland defense dominant with 9 sacks. Myles Garrett with 4.5 sacks this game. What do we think of this one? A game that Moody got wrong.
Got hella wrong. Dan Orlovsky went out there, put the camera on him today on NFL Live and said they need to fire Matt Nagy today, and I could not.
He wasn't the only person.
I could not.
But you have to name drop your boy Dan Orlovsky.
He's not my boy. I was just pointing out somebody. He literally did the whole scene. But that he sabotaged Justin Fields on Sunday. He did. I am totally 100% convinced. Justin Fields.
He would.
Justin Fields carried the ball 3 times in this football game. When is the last time you think Justin Fields carried the ball?
I don't think he sabotaged him
3 or fewer times in a football game.
I don't think he sabotaged him. I just think he's a numbskull that doesn't know what he's doing. It's that easy.
So whether it's negligence or whether it's sabotage, it doesn't matter. Because that's his
last chance. So he would have sabotaged his last chance.
He don't deserve to continue to coach a football team after what he did. Do you think Justin Fields has ever in a game in his career carried the ball 3 times?
Like I've been telling you, they didn't run Mitchell. They didn't run Mitchell Trubisky, and he was a runner too.
But Justin Fields was special. Justin Fields was. It's awful. It's awful. He should be fired for being a numbskull, or he should be fired for sabotaging. It doesn't matter. It was awful. They let Myles Garrett do whatever he wanted.
I will say Cleveland's defense is still It didn't look good, and it looked good and it looked good. And the Chicago Bears had been moving the ball a little bit before.
They had 58 yards of total offense in this game.
It's the worst offensive performance I've seen in a while.
Like the Trayvon Diggs pick six on Monday night was more yards than the Bears had on offense. Like that's how anemic. That's how irresponsible they played on offense in that game. That's just throw that out. Disgusting. It's gross. Cleveland, there's nothing to really take away from here. They got handed a pig on a platter, and they took advantage. They're a good team. They beat a team that just had no business. They got a rookie
quarterback and a bad coach. Like all the rookie, he found like all the rookie quarterbacks. Andy Dalton should have been in that game, collecting that lick, and that's why he was starting, because their offensive line is the worst in football, and it's the league that Pittsburgh exists in. It's a bad team. It's a bad team. Were you surprised?
They gotta win. They
just because you gotta win. Just because, so did Jacksonville last year in the first 4 weeks of the season.
Over a playoff team, yeah.
Sometimes you get a win.
Week ones are crazy. Never forget it.
But Eric, anything else to say about this game? This tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Like, the Bears didn't try to move the pocket. They didn't try to use any of Justin Fields.
Myles Garrett was surprised.
I can't believe anybody's surprised. They've never done it.
Well, you think if you drafted a guy like Justin Fields, they were like, all right, we're gonna have a plan.
They did.
No, they didn't.
When did they show you that?
No, they sent them out there to run the same offense that Andy Dalton was running.
No, they sent them out there to run the same offense that Mr. Trubisky was running.
That's a problem.
The same offense that Nick Foles was running. It's the offense.
So you've learned no lesson?
The offense is bad.
You believe that much in your scheme?
The offense is bad.
That you don't care about adjusting at all?
He doesn't know anything else. They're going to fire you, Matt Nagy.
They're going to fire him, and he deserves it because he don't want to adjust, and that's that. There's nothing else to be said about it.
And last note, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, great game as well. He's going to be a problem.
Sneaky rookie, defensive rookie of the year candidate.
And since we're bringing up sneaky, I forgot to mention my man Aziz, 3 weeks, 3 sacks. The people that we predicted are in a good three-way fight right now to start the season.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right, the next one, we got Tennessee beating the Indianapolis Colts 25-16. What do we think about it?
You got a little bit more of a look at that. While I've only seen the.
That was the ugliest game as one of the 1 o'clock time frame. I mean, Tennessee ran the ball and controlled the game, and they got lots of pressure on Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts line that it's struggling. The Colts are in a good. Everybody knew the Colts had a ridiculously hard schedule to start. It didn't help that they had to face crippling injuries before camp even broke, but it's tough.
It's surprising how poor their offenses look, though. I think it's 10 points, 17 points. 16 points in 3 weeks, because I'm not going to give them the credit for the punt return against the Rams.
I didn't think T.Y. Hilton was that good, but I mean, he hasn't played. I guess they need it. He is the only speed threat on their team. They're receiver. I agree with what Chris Sims says. They're an impactful player away on both sides of the ball from being a truly elite team. They need another offensive player on the line now that Costanzo is gone, and the defense is. It's weak, and their secondary is not. Their best corner is a slot corner. They weren't getting much pass rush either, and we saw what Chandler Jones did to that offensive line. So that was actually interesting to realize. They might need some edge. They don't have much of on the edge, and they don't really have much in the secondary on the perimeter. So they're a little weak there, but luckily for them, they play in a division with Jacksonville.
But Tennessee, they look back on track. Derrick Henry, after a slow first, I would say 6 quarters,
good
6 quarters, he's really started to control the game. Really controlled the game for Tennessee again, which has opened up their play action game. AJ Brown got hurt. He's week to week with a hamstring, so that's a tough injury for them to deal with. Injury. So now it's just the Julio show. Because they don't really have.
He looked like he's getting better.
They don't really have another guy to really step up and fill that void. So it's
their tight ends are underrated.
So we'll see who gets who fills those AJ Brown targets for the Tennessee offense. But that obviously is a big blow to them, as that's their playmaking number 1 receiver. But overall good. What is it? Were they at home?
Yeah, they were.
Good home division win for Tennessee as they moved to 2-1.
They almost blew the game. They almost blew the game in the end. It wasn't a good football game. It was surprisingly sloppy.
The AFC South doesn't look very exciting right now, to say the least.
Eric, did you catch any of this game?
Not really.
You're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah. So let's move on to the 1 o'clock game. Arizona beats the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-19, and I think the score does not indicate how the game went at all.
This is the weirdest game of the weekend, probably. Like, we had the longest play in NFL history occurred in this game. We had a pick six on a flea flicker, and we know what Kyler Murray do. So it's just this game had all the works. Jacksonville somehow led by 9 going into the fourth quarter.
They might have been up by 2 possessions a couple times.
And yet, when the game came, in the last 5 minutes of the game, it was garbage time.
They made the mistake. They made the mistake.
They were up. Their defense was playing well, and they called a bad play, followed by a rookie quarterback making an awful decision.
One of the worst decisions of the week. It's going to go up there with
arguably the worst pick of the weekend, or the worst decision made of the weekend. Another poor play for Trevor Lawrence.
But I know who's going to be the worst decision of the weekend.
The play call shouldn't have been made either, in my opinion. Overall, probably the best showing Jacksonville has had as a football team in the season so far. Against a good team in Arizona that they could have beaten if they just didn't make poor mistakes.
If they didn't get, if they didn't get that 109-yard return, that game.
I mean, but that was Arizona allowed that play to happen. No, Jacksonville was up. Like, they were.
Yeah, so they were gonna go for like a little. We call it the flip. Score at the end of the half, score at the beginning of the half, without them touching the ball, and it went It went haywire.
The worst case scenario happened. It's a bad team, first-year head coach. This is what bad teams do. This is how bad teams lose games. It's nothing that we've never seen a bad team do before. It just happened in a weird way for them today.
Great throw by Trevor Lawrence, but a couple questionable interceptions because his offensive line's all right, not great.
It's really,
the weapons all right, not great.
Actually, I used to say, all right, who is James Robinson the best player on that football team?
Chark. DJ Chark.
DJ Chark's the best player. If DJ Chark's the best player of your football team, Isaiah, I feel like that's a problem.
Former LSU receiver?
I feel like that's a problem. That's all I'm going to say.
Sounds like Odell Beckham Jr. Nah. They also got Laviska Shenault. It's growing pains. It's a really young team. And they're missing out on having ETN, who would have been a good piece to have out there.
For Arizona, they moved to 3-0. They've also had a nice luxury of having 3 pretty nice cushiony games.
Heading into NFC West divisional play.
Yeah,
that's they're right now. They're in second place. So
both teams 3-0, and now we're about to see finally the Niners and the Rams and the Seahawks and all of the Cardinals. All of them get to go at it in what I think is the best division. The AFC West looks pretty good as well, though, and it'll be interesting to see how Arizona looks against better competition.
Yeah. Moving on. Next game, Eric.
Well, no, I was gonna say.
My bad.
It was impressive for the Cardinals because it looked like Jacksonville had a conscious effort to take DeAndre Hopkins out of the game. So
he's also playing with those bruised ribs.
Yeah, so it was a resurgence game for AJ Green, who had 5 catches for 112 yards.
I didn't know the game was that good. No?
Christian Kirk had 7 catches for 140 yards. So they showed
their offense is better than it used to be for sure.
Yeah, so
Jacksonville also can't cover anything.
Yeah, so they showed that they can respond when DeAndre is not 100% or being double teamed.
2 touchdowns for the running back from Pittsburgh that they signed.
James Conner.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Eric?
No, that's
Jacksonville wise.
They're sorry.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah, so let's move on to the New Orleans Saints beat the New England Patriots 28-13. When Jameis Winston is trying to get into the hype speech before the game, but.
Next to you, right next to you. Look at the man right next to you.
That's the man who follows instruction. We don't really know what to make heads or tails of New Orleans right now. Is really, I think, the biggest takeaway from this game. Their defense after a week of their defense not being available against the Panthers. They were all back this week against the New England Patriots, and it showed. Mac Jones had a hard time all day long, under constant duress, no real receivers to get open and create any separation. They're running a pretty vanilla game plan, and New Orleans is going to feast on that because they're just a really solid veteran defense. An unfortunate tip drill that New Orleans took all the way back to the house, kind of opened the game up for them. And then on offense, New Orleans was just in control. Jameis tried to throw a ball away that turned into a touchdown catch because he said he was throwing the ball away. Jameis Winston said that. So we know the roller coaster that is Jameis Winston continues. But with going up against a rookie quarterback, they're not going to have a real shot against a team that's built like New Orleans is. They got to welcome back Marshawn Lattimore. Bradley Roby got to introduce for the first time as well. So their football team, as far as defensively, looking as strong as ever.
If Tennessee versus Indianapolis was the bad football game of this bad playing of the game, this was the snooze fest of the game, because this was not, you blinked and you missed it. You said it right. New Orleans is going to ride the Jameis Winston roller coaster. Weeks he don't turn the ball over, they're going to be great. Weeks he turns the ball over, they're probably going to lose. Jameis, I need you to throw the Giants a couple next week. But this game, like you said, New England was running some really vanilla stuff. New Orleans was running some really vanilla stuff.
Neither team looks like a team that trusts their quarterback.
The defenses were playing good because they were guarding vanilla stuff. New England was never out of the game, but they were never in it either. Mac Jones had probably the worst game of his career, but his short career. He to add to the rookie, he joined the party of rookie quarterbacks struggling. He didn't look like that great. He's got to play Tom Brady next week. Good luck to him. But Eric, how do you feel about this game? This game wasn't not exciting, just football.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones with his 3 interceptions. I mean, definitely his worst game, but I still think he looks the best out of all the rookie quarterbacks.
Trey Lance.
He hasn't been exposed yet.
All I guess it was getting in the game and running to the end zone.
I mean, Alvin Kamara is starting to wake up a little bit. 3 catches for 29 yards and 24 carries for 89. So he's
going to load up on him so Michael Thomas is back.
Yeah, they're going to try to abuse him.
If he ever comes back.
Anything else?
Nah, this is a good solid win for New Orleans as they try to continue their fight to stay in it in a really, really surprisingly difficult NFC South.
It was difficult last year.
All right, so moving on, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-10, and probably Big Ben's worst game of his career.
We've seen some bad ones. I think you're forgetting about the young Big Ben.
That one interception he threw to the linebacker was probably one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen.
So I saw a stat that Ben Roethlisberger.
I forgot about that. That's also in contention for Bonehead Play today.
Ben Roethlisberger hasn't averaged over 7.4 yards per attempt since 2018 in any game. Like this has been an extended kind of decline, but it's looking every week. It's looking like a disaster. They've done them a disservice by not addressing the offensive line. The fact that they thought that they could just go recreate an entire offensive line with a quarterback who looks like he needs everything to be as perfect as possible around him to succeed. For them to completely neglect the offensive line, that was malpractice. And with the obvious decline of Ben Roethlisberger included, it's no surprise that they're struggling the way that they are. This was a team that was going to be reliant on elite defense and almost perfect health for them to be able to win football games. That's how they beat the Buffalo Bills in Week 1. But now that the injuries have come for T.J. Watt and Ben Roethlisberger is dealing with injuries up and down as well, the offensive line's not good. Pittsburgh's got some things to figure out, but they're not dead yet. Ben Roethlisberger does not look great. They're going to have to find a future replacement for him as soon as possible. I don't debate that, but I don't think Pittsburgh is dead yet. That defense is still really good. They've still been in these games. It's taken fourth quarter put away touchdowns to be able to finish these guys off.
They weren't in the Bengals game. They weren't in that game.
They weren't in the game.
They weren't in that game. No matter, they were never in the game
because you can't trust Roethlisberger to move the ball at all. So they're gonna have to figure out a way to manufacture with their defense to force the score on defense, the score on special teams. That's how they're gonna win games. And I think their defense and special teams is capable of doing it. But with the injuries they're dealing with right now, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah. Coming up, they got Packers, Broncos, Seahawks.
They can win 2 of those games.
If they can win 2 of those
games, if things break right. Like Pittsburgh's a team where their defense is.
And let's be real, is Ben beating Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
Probably not. The win's probably the Broncos, and then maybe they could beat the Seahawks at home. Maybe. I would be surprised if they walk into Lambeau and won, but.
Yeah, and what I take away from the Steelers is that how they're responding to their lack of running game with Najee Harris. They're throwing him the ball. He was their leading receiver. He had
it looks like rookie year Saquon Barkley.
He had 19 targets in the receiving game, and 14 catches for 102 yards. It's
Big Ben dumped it off to him on 4th and 10, down by 2 possessions.
He can't do anything else. Like, it looks like it's snap, pass rushers here, and I can't make a play down, so I got to dump it down. It's really hard to watch right now, and they're just an adjustment has to be made. I don't know what it is. I don't know how they fix it, but they got a trade. I don't know, but they're in a really bad spot right now.
All right, so let's move on to Cincinnati, where Jamar Chase trolled us in the preseason with catching footballs.
Yeah, he just did that so people will play him one-on-one. Because now he looks like
ain't nobody questioning no more.
The Joey to Jamar connection looks like it looked like at LSU. The gritty is going on all day long. It's been a huge boost for the Cincinnati offense.
Big game from Tyler Boyd.
Too, with T. Higgins being out, Tyler Boyd stepped up and took on a more commanding share of the targets, and it worked out. They have really good weapons on that offense. Zach Taylor deserves some credit for finally looking like he's put the offense together to be able to start moving the ball more consistently.
He often does numbskull things and make you question.
I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but they're also a solid 2-1 start. They beat Minnesota, who no one mistakes a great team, but I think it's a solid team. Pittsburgh as well on the road, so got to give them credit for that. Cincinnati looks like they're going to be a tougher out this year than they were last year. I think that's the best thing you can say about Cincinnati.
They might be a playoff team.
I mean,
yeah, jump into that.
The AFC is so deep. The AFC is so deep, but with the Baltimore injuries, it's really going to come down to how they play Baltimore.
Because they haven't played any of the still good teams in their division right now. They haven't played those guys yet.
Yeah, and Joe Mixon had a great game. 18 carries, 90 yards.
He's killed it this year.
They dominated Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and that led to Joe Burrow only throwing it 18 times.
I told you about Jamar Chase, though. I tell you.
You told people that Jamar Chase is good at football? I'm not going to give you credit for telling people about Jamar Chase.
I told you he was a top 20 receiver right now. Right now.
He looks good. He looks damn good. That's for sure.
Anything else?
No. All right, moving on. Let's go to Buffalo, where the Buffalo Bills beat the Washington football team 43-21. That defense ain't looking like what it was.
The second NFC East team to lose so far in this review, as 3 NFC East teams will take L's this week, just 3, not all 4. But Washington football team, the other people may be surprised. I personally am not. They are who I thought they were. Their defense was always overrated. They gave up more 30-point games last year than the Dallas Cowboys did, and people have consistently thought that the Dallas Cowboys had one of the worst defenses in NFL history. We know their front four is talented as any front four in the league, but it doesn't look as good when it's not going against Andy Dalton and 5th and 6th string tackles, and that's being found out. They've been exposed. They've been exposed at all 3 levels in their defense. They don't rush the passer well at all so far. Their secondary looks like with the lack of pass rush, their secondary is getting exposed for having to cover way too long. They don't really have anything at the linebacker position, and then we know what the problems are on offense. But the problems on offense don't matter because this team was supposed to be carried by the elite top 5, top 3 defense that everybody was expecting, and the defense has not delivered, and that's why they're 1-2.
Washington, it's okay. You just played Josh Allen. You weren't gonna. They're not. Your defense isn't good enough to be top 5 quarterbacks. You were never gonna win, and you were probably gonna always get dominated because Josh Allen can run away from your pass rushers. So I think you're still okay. I think you're fine. I think they just. Unfortunately, they won the division last year, so they drew the Buffalo Bills. It's the biggest mismatch on all of the schedule is that everybody else is playing AFC East teams in the NFC East, and they drew the Buffalo Bills, who were in the AFC Championship game, who are just on a different level. So, I mean, I didn't think it'd be competitive because they don't have a defense. No one has a defense really to stop Josh Allen consistently. It was just your week. Anything else about this game, Eric, before we go to Buffalo? Because that's really,
yeah, the defense is looking questionable by the week.
They're not getting much pass rush, but actually they were getting to Josh Allen pretty consistent a lot. I mean, he was getting away. He was running away from Chase Young. So all that Chase Young better get used to running down Josh Allen type quarterbacks instead of trying to run down Saquon Barkley. You should worry about that instead. But Big game from Emmanuel Sanders. I thought he was pretty done, but he looked pretty.
He had a couple
good.
years with some bad quarterbacks, but he's been pretty good.
He looked pretty good in that game. Cole Beasley had a big game. Stephon Diggs is getting that treatment we were talking about where he's just getting all the coverage, so he's opening up for other guys. Buffalo's defense looked amazing. Taylor Heineke threw bad picks, because I don't know how good that Washington offense is.
It's not.
Scary Terry still had a good game because he's Scary Terry. But anything else about this game, really? Buffalo by a lot. Josh Allen jumps into
look like a better football team imposing their will on a lesser football team.
Yeah, you're not on that level.
Yeah, and the Buffalo Bills are starting to run the football better than they have
with their running backs, not just with Josh Allen.
Yeah. They're starting him to hit their stride, and they have an easy schedule, so good for them.
All right, so moving on, we'll go to probably the most exciting finish of the weekend. Ravens-Lions. Ravens pull it out of their ass with a 19-17 win off of Justin Tucker, 66-yard game-winning field goal.
The kicker GOAT. He is the kick. I'm sorry that he didn't get to play with Manning or Brady.
He started the Patriots dynasty.
Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker in NFL history, and I don't think there's a question about it. And he just proved it again right there. Like that's the storyline of this game. This is an ugly ass football game that nobody in there that doesn't root for the Ravens or the Lions in their right mind would be watching. The kneecap biters bit the kneecaps all the way down to the very end, all the way until a 4th and 19. And then a bad team did what a bad team does. And then after the bad team gave up the play, the referees came in for the finish. And that's how it goes, man. That's usually how bad teams lose games. Usually they make a bad play, then the referees screw them over because they allowed the referees to even be involved in the final decision. And it sucks for Detroit, man. They fought their asses off. That's a game that you probably win 99 out of 100 times. But this was that one time.
Unless you're in Detroit, and then the percentage is skewed to you're gonna lose it 75% of the time. Sucks to be Detroit. They were down by a lot early. They're going to cover every game the way they play until it gets really bad and the veterans are ready to just go home for the holidays. They look bought in, but I don't know how many type of losses like this they'll be able to take before people start just quitting on them.
I mean, this has been going on for 30 years at Detroit.
But it's different players. Like, so these players right now are like, all right, we're close. Like, there's no way they're like, we're only getting closer, but nah, this is Detroit. This could get worse. They got their roster's not very talented.
Yeah, the gods.
They fight hard, man. You at least respect that they're doing the best way. They look competitive, but they're
the best bad team of all the bad teams.
They got 2 first-round picks coming up, plus their own. So they're going to have a bunch of first-round picks coming up over these years. If they could just have the young guys playing hard and establishing that kind of culture, in a couple of years, maybe they can turn it around. But for right now, it's not a good roster.
Anything about Baltimore getting out of there? That's what they do.
Yeah, I mean,
66 yards. That's the longest field goal anybody's ever seen.
Yeah, we know the Justin Tucker thing goes without saying. Mark Andrews finally bounced back after kind of a slow start to the season. He had 100 yards. Marquise Brown continues to show.
Baltimore struggled to run the ball, in my opinion.
And it's like I didn't see what the final numbers were for them running the ball, but that is surprising. But the game was lower scoring. If you're stopping Baltimore from scoring points, that means you're stopping their run game. So they definitely had to do a good job in that area.
So moving on to the primetime game for these 1 o'clocks, the LA Chargers beat the Kansas City Chiefs 30-24. Isaiah, I'll let you take the floor.
Hey, I mean, I believed in Justin Herbert. I thought that the Chiefs were they got a little Super Bowl hangover coming off the loss on them right now. And I just think that the AFC is loaded with very talented quarterbacks and competent organizations that have good teams. And I mean, I thought Kansas City fought pretty hard. They're turning the ball over way too much. Everybody, the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers are just turning the ball over way too much. So they're losing football games because they also have their defense has reverted back to that that first year Patrick Mahomes defense. So now the defense isn't good and the team turns the ball over too much in bad times. So a loss. That they're gonna go back to the drawing board and they'll get things right. They'll go back to get back to fundamentals and basics, the basic coach talks. As for the Chargers, this is a spotlight we're here, we're a contender type of win. So hopefully they could use that momentum to get them through the rest of the season. Now they have a inside track to winning the AFC West that they've beaten the Chiefs, and I think they're playing the Raiders next week, so they could start off to the season, get a really good start to the season and the division race. But gutsy calls in the end, aggressive coaching all around. That might have been too aggressive. That could have got the Chargers beat because their kicking situation is always up in the air. But great win, great game, a quarterback rivalry that we're going to get to witness hopefully for the next 10 to 15 years.
Sloppy. That is the best way you can describe that football game for Kansas City. The fact that they have that much of a margin for error that they can turn the ball over 4 times and you have to convert a 4th and 9 with a pass interference questionable call to barely win the game. Like it really shows just how good they are, but it also shows how poorly they're playing for themselves. And like Isaiah spread the blame around a little bit, but this blame has to go squarely on the focus of Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, why don't we just it
has to.
The guy that does all the heavy lifting.
He's got the 10-year, $500 million deal. He can't come out here for 2 straight weeks in important moments of the football game and turn the ball over.
He didn't do it in Baltimore. He did it this week. This week he did it.
With a 35-30 lead against ball, they had the lead with the ball and complete control of the game, and he turned that ball over.
And he was taking them back he made up for that.
And he didn't have to.
Taking them back down.
And here's it's not the fact that he's turning the ball over, Isaiah. It's the fact that they're both been preventable. They've both been plays where it's like you could have just ate it. You could have just ate it, Patrick. If he just eats the play, they probably still win the football game. If
Patrick Mahomes ever eaten a play?
Yeah, but he's always gotten away with it. He has not gotten away with it for these last 2 weeks of the season. He got away with it week 1. They could easily be 0-3 if it wasn't for Nick Chubb's fumbling.
The punter.
The punter situation as well. So this is a team they gotta stop playing sloppy. The AFC is really, really good. They all got quarterbacks. They've all got really good football teams. They can no longer just show up and win football games. They're gonna have to come out here and give a damn about the details and the technique. And then they'll turn around. No one's concerned about Kansas City going forward, but they got to stop choking away games with the turnovers.
Now that defense can make it hard.
It's bad. The defense is not. Look, we seen the blueprint. If you got a bad defense, your offense can't be turned the ball over. It just can't. You can't win games with a bad defense and an offense that's turning the ball over 3+ times a game, and that's what the Chiefs are doing right now. As for the Chargers, just confidence, gutsy. They showed up on the road in a tough environment, and they decided that like they were going to bring the fight to the Chiefs. They got to the good lead, right? The tip drill got their momentum going earlier with the interception, but Justin Herbert was masterful, drove them up and down the field on the Chiefs defense that looked like they just had no shot. Mike Williams was able to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted to do it. They had no chance of stopping him. They converted in the red zone as well. They made sure they got touchdowns out of it, and they knew that they had to go finish Kansas City. They didn't think about running the clock out and kicking 3. They said we want 6 points, and we want to kill the clock, and we want a touchdown, and that's what they did. And hats off to him, man. It's one of the best wins of the season to go beat Patrick Mahomes in his own house.
Eric, how do you feel about the showcase game?
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes is getting his green light is getting a little too bright. He can't.
He's doing the same things. It just
He's gotten away with it, and it's
his coach is Andy Reid. Andy Reid's gonna let him do whatever he wants. They're gonna try everything. Oh yeah.
So I just think he needs to rein it back a little bit, get back to what he's used to, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to stop fumbling the football.
That's unacceptable. He's a running back. Don't put the ball on the ground. He's not gonna have a long career if he keeps fumbling.
But to the Chargers, Justin Herbert was sensational. No turnovers, 4 touchdowns. He was sensational in that game. 125 QBR. Mike Williams went off. I think that was mainly they were going, Keenan Allen isn't going to beat us. So Mike Williams had to step up, and he did. So, yeah. So moving on, we'll start with the worst 4:00 game. The Broncos beat the Jets 26-0.
New Jersey football continues to be garbage. No, and we have. I'm sorry for the poor fans up in the Northeast who have to subject themselves to this awful football experience, especially on the offensive end. Why can't people in New York score touchdowns? That's the real question right now. It is it's an unfortunate situation that Zach Wilson finds himself in. Defensive coach, it was never going to work the way with a Zach Wilson who was kind of a more raw prospect on a team that wasn't exactly flush with talent, and a defensive coach that isn't really going to know how to quite maximize his abilities as a young player. That's what it looks like. The Jets defense has been good. The Jets defense has kept them in the games that they played in. They haven't gotten just boat raced out of any game. They've been able to compete with all these other teams. It's just their offense can't do anything. They have receivers who get no separation. They have no threat at the tight end position. They have no threat in the run game. The offensive line's bad. The quarterback doesn't know what he's doing out there. There are no good things about this offense, and you saw it on display as they scored a fat goose egg against the Denver Broncos, who have a good defense, a defense I like a lot, but you couldn't get more than 0, and it never looked like they came that close to scoring, to be honest with you. Football's really, really bad for the New York Jets right now. You hope that as time with a rookie quarterback contract, they can build on this. The injuries have kind of hit them early, and they weren't a team that could afford it, and that's exactly what it showed here. As for Denver, another easy win against another bad team. They've had one of the softest starts to a schedule in NFL history, in my opinion. They haven't beaten a team that's won a game yet, and this just continued that same lineup. Our defense is good enough to shut down all these bad quarterbacks, and Teddy Bridgewater's just doing his job, and that's been good enough for them so far.
Yeah, easy win for Denver, so not even anything else to say about that. But as for the Jets, I mean, like you said, they don't have anything from their offense, so They have the LaFleur brother, and they're running that Shanahan's wide zone. They don't have any players, so it's gonna be a tough year. And they could still be playing to this moment, and the Jets would still have 0 points on the board. They don't have their best players on their offense right now is their quarterback and rookie left guard. So
it's bad.
They're not winning anything. It's gonna be tough. That's what it is. Anything else about this game so we can move on?
No, not really. The Jets are just brutal. Will they ever figure it out? We'll find out. Moving on, we'll go to Las Vegas, where the Raiders beat the Miami Dolphins 31-28 in overtime. One of the bad beats of the weekend, -3.5.
Hey, no, I told y'all to cover. So don't shake your heads here. If y'all was listening to me, I told y'all to cover. This was always going to be a difficult matchup for the Raiders because the Raiders are without Josh Jacobs. The Raiders are a team that struggles to run the football. Their offensive line isn't very good at creating holes, and Miami has an elite pass defense. So it just made sense that Derek Carr, who's off to an MVP start, they're 3-0. They showed great resiliency in fighting back and winning this football game. But yeah, we know this. It was always going to be a difficult matchup for them. For the Dolphins, Jacoby Brissett, he played like Jacoby Brissett. He did the best he could.
Probably as good as Tua would have probably played too.
I think Tua. I think we're disrespecting Tua a little bit there. But Jacoby, Jalen Waddle had 12 catches for 58 yards. That's not even less than 5 yards of reception. That's not great. They really Will Fuller scored a touchdown late, so that's good to see him. He was dealing with some issues. Good to see him back and producing for the team. They really don't have anything in terms of a run game right now. What they have is 2 really, really good cornerbacks. They got Byron Jones. They got Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard's known to make a play. Byron Jones is known to knock a ball down. That'll help their defense get enough stops to keep them in most football games unless they're playing Buffalo. And that's how it came this week. They got off to a good start. They held on for as long as they could. But the Raiders, with the way Derek Carr's playing right now, they had the better quarterback, and that helped them get out on top in this football game.
Good sign of growth from the Raiders to get out of this trap game. I thought after that pick six, I picked them to win. And I still thought that they could have easily fallen into the trap game syndrome. Luckily, they were playing a backup quarterback, even though I do think Jacoby Brissett played just as good as Tua probably would have played. Not much really to say about this game other than Oakland. They're probably not that good of a. Vegas. They're probably not that good of a team because they're this close to being In 2 overtime games, they could easily be 1-2.
But hey, good teams find a way to win.
And they're marginal. They have good coaching, so at worst they're going to get the 8 wins that they've been falling into. Hopefully they can keep it up and keep the MVP critique going for Mr. David Carr.
They're gonna get into their divisional opponent too. They got the Chargers on Monday Night Football next week. That'll be really, really exciting to see.
Anything else about this game, Eric?
I mean, yeah, it's scary for a Dolphins fan to see the offense be the same with Jacoby Brissett as it is with Tua.
Well, Tua didn't get to use Will Fuller at all, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But having what's his first name? Peyton Barber go for 23 attempts, 111 yards. You don't expect that. And also they need to.
They hate Kenyon Drake apparently.
But they need to get Darren Waller more targets. He only had 7 targets this game, which compared to week 1.
The receivers are getting Brian Edwards Jr. That kid can play.
He fell to the 3rd round. It's just insane. He's so talented, man. They got to steal.
Where's he from?
Absolute steal. South Carolina. With J.C. Horn. I'm sure those camp practices were incredible.
But yeah, I mean, Oakland's 3-0. I think they're the biggest pretenders in the division because they're not probably going to.
Nah, I think Denver's bigger pretenders.
We'll see. I mean, I still think the division's really good. I just don't know if those teams.
The bottom 2 teams are the better teams right now. That's the weirdness of the September month of the NFL season.
Anything else we can move on to the showcase game? Is that what's?
No, we're gonna go one more. We're gonna go Minnesota beating Seattle 30-17. My lock of the week does not hit. Brutal. I couldn't believe it.
I'm sure the Seahawks couldn't believe it.
It was unreal.
They were only 7-0.
Russell Wilson had never had done. Although he 23 out of 32, 298 yards, a touchdown, no picks, he was fine. Like he wasn't the spectacular Russell Wilson numbers, but this doesn't look like a guy who played a poor football game. They averaged 6 yards a carry. DK Metcalf went for over 100 yards. Like it's really interesting that their offense just with only 17 points.
That's not the problem with the team.
No turnovers. They were 1 for 1 in the red zone.
They have one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
But they only scored 17 points.
You also look at, if you go through their games, how many points they score in the first half versus how many points they score in the second half.
Once you stop the flurry. Yep, I agree with that, Eric. Once you stop that flurry that they come out with their script plays and the 2 plays to get DK Metcalf a touch D, get Tyler Lockett a touch D. If you survive that, you can just abuse their defense for the rest of the game.
In this battle of the 2 best remaining 2012 draft quarterbacks, although Ryan Tannehill is also in the conversation as well.
The second one.
But it was just so weird. Kirk Cousins is playing his ass off. Let's give him credit because Dalvin Cook's been injured in and out. That's been rough. But Adam Thielen, touchdown TD machine. Justin Jefferson continuing on his excellent rookie campaign. But Kirk Cousins is completing 74% of his passes, 300 yards a game, 8 touchdowns, no picks. If his kicker don't miss a field goal and if his running back don't fumble the ball, Vikings could easily be 3-0. That's the kind of NFL season that's been to start. But give Kirk Cousins a lot of credit. He's been playing really, really well. Their offense scored 30 points on the Seattle defense. That isn't very good. They were just so efficient, 9 out of 14 on third downs. Kirk Cousins was 30 out of 38 from the field. Like, that's just 1 sack, no turnovers, just about as clean of a football game as you could play for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle's defense is bad. I thought Seattle had a chance to be the odd man out in that NFC West, so how they match up against those teams is going to be really important this year because they just blew an NFC game that they're going to probably win, and it's going to be a tough race in that doghouse for those wild cards in the NFC. So that's tough to lose to Minnesota so handily. Yeah,
rough loss.
Yeah, tough. That's Russell Wilson. That's not going to keep Russell Wilson happy. Anything else to say about this tragedy for Russell up there in Seattle? He's got Sierra.
It was impressive, the run game for Minnesota with no Dalvin Cook. Madison having 26 carries for 112 yards.
He could be a starter for some.
He's a fantastic RB2. A fantastic RB2.
Absolutely. So moving on to America's game of the week.
Isaiah's lock of the week.
The LA Rams took down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34-24.
Just Isaiah, you go ahead and take it away. Go ahead and give your flowers out where you can.
I mean, first we're going to start with the leading candidate for MVP this season, Mr. Matthew Stafford. Mr. Matthew Stafford taking down Tom Brady and the slightly wounded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, unfortunately for Tampa Bay, they had to go to SoFi, and apparently SoFi has a nice home field advantage. AB was on the COVID list. Jason Pierre-Paul missed out. Jamal Dean got hurt early, and they had Murphy Bunting out. So a couple bad injuries, but LAR controlled the game. They just dominated them. They just dominated them. After I saw a couple of the injuries come later, I was telling Woody that I did feel I felt LA had a stronger chance of controlling the game, because in the end, they still had the best two players that were playing in the game, because they have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Tom Brady, lots of mop-up duty for Tom Brady. He got the garbage time duty this week. Mike Evans surprisingly had a better game than expected. He was pretty decent for Godwin. They moved the ball, but they didn't capitalize enough. And Cooper Kupp had a sensational performance, and Deshaun Jackson had a sensational performance because they found a way to get open. Deshaun Jackson got open deep 3 times. They were actually lucky they only connected once. But what more can we say except for Matthew Stafford's signature win that everybody said he couldn't get?
Without a doubt, the biggest. Go ahead, Eric.
I'm pretty sure Deshaun Jackson broke the record for most 50-plus yard touchdowns.
He's a top 3 deep threat all time. No question. No question. But yeah, without a doubt, this is the biggest win by far of Matthew Stafford's football career. Congratulations to him. He played really well against a really, really good football team. Got to give him nothing but credit for that. As Isaiah pointed out, I definitely think the random COVID thing with Antonio Brown, the injury to Jason Pierre-Paul, and the biggest injury, Jamal Dean getting knocked out of the game, make things a lot easier. The way the Rams offensive line dominated the Tampa Bay Bucks front. I mean, they were only missing Jason Pierre-Paul. Vita Vea still out there. Dominic Sue still out there. Shaq Barrett. Can anybody find me where the hell Shaq Barrett is? Because he didn't even – Matthew Stafford probably didn't even know Shaq Barrett played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for as long as he was chilling in the pocket. He could have drove to Detroit and back for as long as he had in that pocket in that game on Sunday. It was shocking. They didn't blitz. I think with the Jamal Dean injury, they didn't trust their cornerbacks to be able to hold up at all in coverage, so they tried to just sit back. And Stafford picked them apart. He stood back there, he surveyed the field, and he mostly just found Cooper Kupp running wide open. Cooper Kupp has been absolutely sensational. Like, he looks like one of the 5 best receivers in the NFL with the way he's been performing.
He's just getting open.
It's not just getting open, Isaiah. He's wide open. He's got 5 touchdowns in 3 games. He's been pretty unstoppable.
He's putting in some work.
Pretty unstoppable for them. To the point where Robert Woods has just been negated to I get like 2 or 3 targets because Cooper Kupp's just running wide open the whole night. But a super duper impressive win for the LA Rams. This felt like 2 teams that are pretty evenly matched. But the Bucs, with all their injuries, kind of brought them down for this road matchup. I do hope that we get an opportunity to see these 2 teams tangle again in the playoffs, but we'll see how that goes.
Anything else, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, with Tom Brady throwing it 55 times, it's kind of hard to get a run game going. But
they have none.
Tom Brady being your leading rusher with 3 attempts, 14 yards.
He didn't win that game.
Yeah. But yeah, like Mike Evans had a good day. Chris Godwin.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, Mike Evans got 8 catches, 106 yards.
They didn't have Jalen Ramsey on him all day. But
Ramsey doesn't do that no more. He plays that star position now. He's moving around everywhere to be a playmaker. And it's not taking number ones out of the game, but it's definitely doing the job.
Yeah, and Cooper Kupp is definitely becoming one of the biggest weapons in the league. So let's move on to the nightcap, the Sunday night football game. Exciting one for us. Green Bay takes a win on a game-winning field goal. They win 30-28 against the San Francisco 49ers.
I know, Niners fans, I just want to let y'all know it doesn't get better. It doesn't. It's when Aaron Rodgers does it to you, it hurts, and it will hurt, and it will sting from this day. At least y'all got playoff victories over him. That's the best thing I can say about that. But this was just another vintage Aaron Rodgers performance. They were up early. They were in complete control of the game. The team let down in the second half to try to give the 49ers the illusion that they could actually win the game.
Which mean they were up.
That's what you said about the Cowboys against the Bucks, but since Tom Brady was on the other side, as what the Niners found out, but since Aaron Rodgers was on the other side and you left him time on the clock, that's on you, Kyle Shanahan. They had no chance of winning because they left Aaron Rodgers too much time. They had a dominant second half. The 49ers fought like hell. Jimmy Garoppolo was excellent in the fourth quarter, leading his team purely on his arm. They didn't rely on the run game that much in this game. They relied on Jimmy Garoppolo to make plays, and he delivered. He got them the lead with 37 seconds left. They definitely managed the clock poorly and left Aaron Rodgers way too much time. But that's just they had to score. They did have to score, but they had to be scoring with no time left, and that's why they lost the football game.
Unfortunately, they had to score, so they didn't really need to take the option of when they score. When you have to score, you got to score when you score.
Nah, they snapped the ball with 12 seconds on the play clock.
Just
snap the ball with 25 seconds on the play clock. That's all you have to do. If you just snap the ball 12 seconds later on the,
you don't want to run the clock out on yourself.
They had timeouts.
They were in a tough situation. Even worse is that, I'm sorry, Aaron, 38 seconds. Have some mercy. Have some mercy.
I know the pain too well.
Have some mercy.
It was too much. I screamed. I told him the minute they scored, I was like, it's too much time. It was just too much time.
Have some mercy, Aaron. That's too much time. That's too much time. That's enough for 2 chunk plays and 2 spikes, and game over. We've seen this story before. Anything else to say? This was good. Classic Aaron Rodgers.
Great revenge win for Aaron Rodgers over a team that he's had a hard time beating last decade.
Now let's see him do it in the playoffs one of these days. Eric, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones was all right this game, nothing special. Aaron Rodgers caught a ball this game. I don't remember seeing that.
Me neither.
You was half asleep most of the game. But I don't remember it either, to be honest with you.
But my breakout player of the year finally got some tick and got caught a tutty. Let's go. Brandon Ayuk, please show out, please. But yeah, nothing much on this game. Kittle's a monster. Deebo Samuel's getting into shape. But yeah, that was a great Sunday night football game.
Absolutely terrific. Between 2 really good expected playoff teams, we got a treat on Sunday night.
Yeah. So
nothing else. So let's move on to go ahead.
Let's move on to the Monday night football game. Uneventful Dallas Cowboys win.
I thought it was eventful.
Beat the Philadelphia Eagles 41-21. Yeah, Moody, take it away.
I mean, I was surprised at the margin of victory in this.
You know who wasn't? The person who said it wasn't going to be close. This guy.
I mean, divisional games, you always can expect the unexpected when it comes to those type of battles. Nick Sirianni with the beat Dallas shirt, he made it seem like it was life or death for the Philadelphia Eagles to go win that football game on Monday night. And I hope they wasn't laying out no bets. I hope nobody had no loans out and that needed to be paid because they got their ass whooped by the Dallas Cowboys football team. They got their ass smoked. Fuck Philly today, tomorrow, and forever. All the homies hate Philadelphia. I love blowing them dudes out last night. That was so much fun to watch. Dak Prescott is in complete control of this Kellen Moore offense. He's at the best he's ever been, honestly. And he is just every game he continues to show the growth to control the football game in all facets. He's basically out there at the line of scrimmage, calling the plays, getting everybody in the right spots. He had one bad play in the end zone when they got backed up, but other than that, he's been really good at taking care of the football as well. And then the run game, we already know what it is. Zeke, people were questioning Ezekiel Elliott, talked about Tony Pollard trying to take over his job. So Zeke had to show y'all that he can still get the job done when they give him the totes. 17 for 95 and 2 touchdowns last night. He was really good. Pollard mixed it in there with 60-yard rushing on his own. He was really good. The underrated star today, Dalton Schultz on the offensive end, 6 for 80 and 2 touchdowns. He was really good. There's not much to say about the Cowboys offense. That we know it's one of the best in the league. They move the ball up and down the field. That's what it is. The real surprise was how well the defense performed. I mean, it was no secret the defense was really, really bad last year. They looked like a night and day difference. Not necessarily like, I'm not going to call it a good defense, but they are definitely opportunistic and they don't just get ran through like they were last year. Trayvon Diggs is playing at a super duper high level right now. 3 picks in 3 games. You can't throw the ball his way right now without the risk of it being a play. Micah Parsons as a full-time edge continues to lead the team in pressures. He had another sack today. He was fantastic as well. The whole secondary played really well. Philadelphia, for some reason, decided to throw the ball all day instead of trying to run. I guess their fear of not being able to keep up, and it was realized in this football game today. Blowout victory for the Dallas Cowboys. They moved to the top of the NFC East.
I thought the Eagles would be picking in the top 5. I don't think Nick Sirianni has proven that he's an NFL caliber coach. So I was not surprised to see the Eagles get blown out by the Dallas Cowboys again. This win means absolutely nothing. It proves absolutely nothing except that it's going to be a long year in the NFC East for the Philadelphia Eagles. And luckily they've got their win already, so they don't have to worry about
that team y'all couldn't even beat. So you trying to downplay wins.
Styles,
at least they got one.
Styles make fights. And Philly ran into the right type of style for their fight that they won't. And I bet you they don't run into that type of style for a long time. I'm going to talk about how bad Philly was. Nick Sirianni trotted up and down the sideline, but he didn't make any amazing calls. He didn't show any great game management. He just was the coach of he just played coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He wouldn't even realize he was there. Jalen Hurts made a flea flicker. Ben Roethlisberger's thrown right to the linebacker type interception and stared down a 5-yard out route and threw one of the easiest gimme pick sixes you'll see. It's the basic, like the one Patrick Surtain caught in the preseason. It's just that's not NFL there. And then he threw an interception on a deep ball, left it really short and inside to the corner. And pathetic performance by the Eagles, but I wasn't surprised because they had some pretty bad injuries that I thought are pretty crippling to their team, being that it's not that talented. So it sucks that they missed out on Brandon Graham. They got some pressure because Hargraves and Fletcher Cox played some good games. That's just wasn't enough because they've got Zach Martin to neutralize some of that interior pressure. So, yeah, Dallas defense looked good, but I think Philadelphia is one of the worst teams in the NFL, so I wasn't surprised to see a blowout. Do we even have anything else to say about this, Eric?
I mean, yeah, I don't understand how Miles Sanders only gets 2 carries on the day.
They didn't believe running the ball was going to be their way to stay in the game. Like, that's the best thing I can come up with. It's shocking how little they chose to run the ball. It's absolutely shocking.
But they didn't stay in the game, so the way they thought they were going to stay in the game didn't work.
They didn't work. They had a game plan and it didn't work. That's why
they don't have the Jimmies and Joes. It wouldn't have mattered what they would have called. They would have got picked apart in the secondary if they tried to stop the run. I thought they should have tried to stop the run, but actually to play the cover 2 shell and let them pick you apart and hope for turnovers is the best they could have done. It's the NFL. It's a tough day. They got their window, so I mean, they can keep pushing off until hopefully it doesn't get before it's only going to get worse from here out probably. And for the Cowboys, they'll continue to bobble back and forth between wins and losses because we know they're inconsistent.
We've won 2 straight. What you mean? Okay. Like when we beat your boy Justin Herbert last week.
MVP standings for this week.
You want to go for the 3 weeks in a row, or just like for?
Yeah, we're gonna keep the race.
All right. I'll probably go. We'll still keep Derek Carr at the top. His team is undefeated with 3 wins over double-digit win teams.
I feel like you had Kyler Murray at the top last week, though.
I had Kyler Murray at the top last week.
I know my top guy's still my top guy.
All right. Kyler Murray has definitely moved down after an uneven performance against Jacksonville, but he'll still be in the top 3. Derek Carr number 1, Matthew Stafford number 2, Kyler Murray at number 3. If we're just doing 3 deep.
So I'm gonna keep Matthew Stafford at the top because he's doing some stuff right now for the Rams. Tom Brady, you could move Tom Brady down. So I'll have my 2 be Kyler Murray because his team is still undefeated and he's playing Matthew Stafford next week. So once one of those guys takes an L, they'll be knocked out of the top 3. And for 3, I'll take who's good? Who's playing good football? I'm gonna take Justin Herbert. I'm gonna take Justin Herbert for 3. He got a Patrick Mahomes win, so I'll take Justin Herbert for 3. And he's got his team.
Lamar got a Patrick Mahomes win. He don't get to be an MVP. He's already got one.
Cleveland's better than him in his division. They almost lost to Detroit this week.
So I don't know how Tom Brady gets out of your top 3 when he throws for 432 yards, but
he was mocking it up out there. He was doing some cleanup job. Down 17 in the game, still passing away.
But I agree with Moody. I think Derek Carr is the MVP through week 3.
He was one of you guys' number 1s last week.
He was my number 2 last week. So I've been on the Derek Carr bandwagon so far.
I'm gonna keep with Tom Brady at number 2, my MVP pick. At number 2, and then I'm gonna go Matthew Stafford number 3.
Yeah, I think you kept it. You might have kept the same one from last week. Now that I think about it, you might have the same standings as last week. Tom Brady doesn't get to stumble and fall.
No,
I didn't have Tom on me. I'm the Tom Brady defender, and he ain't even on my list.
He didn't. They got stomped out.
I think they got lucky in week 1. That's why I am.
They got stomped out last week. But all right, anything else?
No. Yeah, nothing else. Let's just wrap it up.
All right, boys. Have a good one.